Hi, community. Today we're talking about partnership, and it works in all areas of life. Here's an interesting thing. I was going to call this topic or this video, I was going to call it avoiding conflict or how to avoid conflict because let's face it, many of us, me included, we want to avoid that conflict. Sometimes at all costs. We hate it. We hate conflict. We hate fighting. We hate any of that stuff. But to be honest, it's not always a good thing to avoid conflict, especially if you're doing it at all costs. Because what that tends to do is the avoidance of conflict becomes the number one priority rather than actually solving a problem or actually achieving some kind of goal for yourself. So I twisted this around and we're going to talk about partnership in this video. The reason for that is I think partnership is underrated. In our culture, in our communities, partnership is underrated. So let's think about this. Only recently, let's look at movies for example. Only recently have we really started embracing this team dynamic. These teams coming together of superheroes, for example, because in our culture, we have, especially in the Western world, we have always worshipped these heroes, these individuals that come and do amazing things. And frankly, it's fine. It's great that these individual people in our world, or even in the fantasy world of movies and TV shows, do extraordinary things. Yes, but when it comes to real life, you and me, in the real world, very rarely will we do something in an individual basis that we're really, really proud of and have a deep sense of fulfillment. It doesn't happen because we were not meant to be this isolated solo person going out in the world and conquering everything on our own. We were designed to be a part of a partnership and teams and relationship with each other. That's something that we tend to, in our hyper masculine world, say I can do this on my own and I'm just going to pull my bootstraps up and I'm going to charge through that brick wall and I'm going to conquer, right? I mean, it's a joke, but it's not, because that's how we act. That's how we respond to some kind of test in our world. So let's talk about partnership and money, because that's what we do here. When you want to achieve a goal, let's say it's to buy something like a house, a car, maybe you're going to reach a goal of a retirement number, maybe you're trying to change your career, maybe you're going to go on to a retirement number where it's going to, I'm going to quit my job at this time because we have this much money, or whatever it is, whatever, doesn't really matter. But when you're in a partnership, and it could be family, it could be a coworker, it could be a spouse, it could be a business partner, it could be anything. It's not just like a married couple I'm talking about. I'm talking about any kind of partnership or any kind of team. When we, not if, when we get into trouble where we're at odds, we have to remember a few things. First thing is, remember that you, or me, we are not right all the time. As much as we act like we are, or we think we're going to be right about this. I know this. I am right. Maybe you are. But remember that you're not always right all the time. Nobody is. Sometimes we act like we are. So that's the first thing to remember. The second thing is there's always another way. This is a beautiful, beautiful statement. There's always another way. So I have clients that come to me all the time and they say, I don't have a choice. I have to do this, or I have to do that, or I was forced to do that. That's not true. That's not true. You weren't forced. You didn't have to. There's not only one way. There's always another way. You just didn't think of it yet. That's why partnerships are so great, because we're bringing in another perspective. Another perspective to be creative, to have a different viewpoint, to speak a different language, to speak a different mindset. That's why coaching, consulting, counselors, therapy, second opinions, third opinions, friends, family, coworkers, bosses, employees, that's why we need to get people around us so that we can get a different perspective, and then we have this creativity mindset so that we can think of other ways. We'll get to that in a second. Third thing is, ask a very, very, very important question. And this takes humility. But in the light of I'm not always right all the time, and there's always another way, I ask this question. Could they be right? Not are they right? Could they be right? Because that starts the conversation. Could they be right? I know I am right about this. But if I have a glimmer of could they be right? Could he be right? Could she be right? Could they be right? Could that group be right? Could that team be right? Could that computer be right? Could that animal be right? Like, just ask the question. If we can take it down a few notches to have humility to say, could they be right? It opens up the dialogue to have the conversation. So let's do a short, quick little example here and say, how many ways are there to get to the number 10? Like, let's say I want to get to the number 10. It's pretty easy. It's a elementary school math problem right here. I need to get to the number 10. And I ask a 4 or 5-year-old, how do you get to number 10? How do you get to 10? Well, they say 5 plus 5. Yes, that's true. They are right. But I would say, is there another way to get to 10? And they're like, what do you mean? It's 5 plus 5 is 10. But we know that there are many ways to get to 10. There's 10 plus 0. There's 9 plus 1. There's 8 plus 2. There's 7 plus 3. There's 6 plus 4. 5 plus 5, right? All of these different ways. So there's 6, 7 different ways to get to 10. But I tricked you, if you hadn't thought about it already. Are there more ways to get to 10? Now, I couched this narrative by counting to 10, but there are thousands of other ways to get to 10. We can add in some subtraction. 20 minus 10 also gives you 10. 30 minus 20 gives you 10. You see where I'm going with this? There's subtraction in there. There's multiplication. There's division, right? There's all these different ways to get to 10. You can get to the same outcome, the same goal that you want by different creative thinking. But if we are thinking in our own minds 5 plus 5, or only thinking positives, plussing, adding, there's only 6 ways to get to the number 10. But if we pull back out and get some other people in our lives, get that partnership intentionally, they can come up with a creative way saying, well, why can't you divide? Why can't you multiply? Why can't you subtract? It's not just adding, right? There's all these different ways to get to 10. Same thing with traveling. I want to get from A to B. Let's say I'm going from Los Angeles to Dallas. Is there only one way to get there? Well, in your mind, there might be. You go on this highway, and then this highway, and then this highway, and this highway, and then you're there. Like, that's the way to get there. Well, maybe that's your way, but there are thousands of other ways to get there. Now, they're all going to look different, but that's the point, is that there are other ways. It's not just your way. So I wanted to just emphasize partnership. It's so, so important. Some of us feel like we can do it on our own, and we have to do it on our own, and maybe we're all by ourselves. But take this opportunity to partner with somebody. Get around people that will think differently than you, not just the way that you think. Because if you get people around you that think exactly like you, you're always going to do the 5 plus 5. Yeah, you agree, 5 plus 5. Yeah, you agree, 5 plus 5. We're going to get to 10. But we don't think about, hey, what about subtracting to get to 10? What about dividing to get to 10? What about multiplying to get to 10? How about going this way? How about going that way? How about taking this road because it's more beautiful? How about going this way because we get to go to the mountains? How about going this way because we get to see a different state? And you miss out because you were thinking of just our way. I'd encourage you to get people around you in all areas of life, in your career, in your finances, in your relationships, your parenting, your childing, your everything. Get people around you that don't think like you. And yes, it's going to cause a little bit of conflict. It's going to cause some ruffles. But if you approach it in this way, it doesn't always have to be fighting all the time. You can actually get to the same goal by a different route. So again, I encourage you to do that. That's why coaching is so important and so good, because we get to a different perspective, somebody that's not in our situation, to speak into this as a third party, to say, hey, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Have you considered going this way? It's really important to get all options as much as possible on the table so that we can make the right decisions based on what we want to do, how we want to do it. Okay? So partnership, very underrated. Get people around you that think differently, engage in that conversation, ask those same questions. Remember, you're not always right. There's always another way. Ask, could they be right? And there are many different ways to get to a specific destination. All right, so that's our tip of the day. I hope it was beneficial for you, and we'll see you next time.